What's going on, guys? So I have the Mythicals issue number 2. Now this is our Virgin cover. It's the wraparound or the front and back, and I just kind of wanted to show off everything on it because I think it's a pretty awesome cover. So we have our demon bishop guy, our main villain or I guess a villain. I don't know if he's necessarily our main villain, but then we have our vampire guy Julian. He's one of the guys part of Level M, who seem to at least be the protagonist faction here, seem to be the good guys. We have a couple new characters that we're going to meet later on in this issue. And then we have Lucas and Nancy and a little kitty cat that Nancy met in the first issue, and that cat is going to play a more significant role in this one. So just to kind of quickly recap what we have. So in issue 1, Nancy went ahead and got an interview. They contacted her. She went in, and she ends up getting the job. But more or less, she was just kind of recruited. The interview was more of a formality, just to kind of see if she is what they expect her to be. Unfortunately, she is attacked by like a demon-possessed man who ends up killing her best friend, and Level M leaves her friend for the authorities to find, which I did have an issue with that in my previous review. And then she was resurrected, and she's out and about. Now we won't see her friend again in this, and I believe her friend was Caitlin, or Catherine, Caitlin. It's one of those. But we're not going to see her again in this issue, so it's not really relevant for that. But Nancy did just go through a traumatic event. So that is kind of catching us up from the previous one, so let's see what we got. So this is Chapter 2, Prophecy and Protocol, and we have H. Wayne Desper working on this, and Alexandra. Sorry, I am god awful with names, so I'm just going to stop trying to attempt that one. So apologies, but I will say the art in this one does seem to be a little bit better, more appealing to me at least, than the last issue. So I do notice and appreciate that. So quick little flashback going on here. Nancy's just kind of rethinking all of the events that just took over, and now she's kind of sitting here just kind of talking it over with herself, just trying to make heads or tails of it. That cat approaches that she saw previously, and she starts talking to it, as one does. It's like, hey, little fella, how you doing? Except the cat starts talking back, and this is Samuel, and Samuel works for Level M. So, yeah, obviously this freaks out Nancy. She's like, what the fuck? And Samuel's like, there's no need for obscenities. Believe me, this is going to be the least weird thing you're going to experience today. And proceeds to lead her on. And he leads her into Level M, where we find everybody else. Now, a couple things I just want to point out here, because a few things just were a little bizarre. Now, first, very, very nitpicky. This part, I don't know if it's just my book or if everybody else has this, seems to be like a dialogue bubble, like the tail of it, just kind of sitting right here on top of Samuel. I have no idea what's going on there. It doesn't seem to be showing up too well in my camera, but that's okay. Again, extremely nitpicky. But, okay, so we see everybody over here in Level M, and they all have desks, but there are no phones, there are no computers. What exactly are they needing these desks for? To be honest, it seems like they need a lot more space. So take Lucas over here. He's got all these guns out. Well, a desk is fairly good at, concealing like pistols and things like that. Okay, I can buy that, but he's got a rifle out here. It just seems like maybe, and perhaps he's got a wall over here with a lot of his weapons, but a desk is not going to conceal a rifle or like a shotgun. Just your longer weapons are not going to sit in there very good. So I'm not exactly certain what he's got going on as far as a use for a desk. We got Daniel over here, and he's working on like some sort of magical potion or something. He's working on stuff, and it just kind of seems like maybe like a laboratory or something would be a little bit better to kind of house potentially dangerous materials apart from one another until he's ready to mix them together or do whatever he's got to do. It doesn't seem like it's the best use of his time. We're gonna meet this girl over here later. She's just got some like papers and stuff like that kind of strewn about. Not a whole lot going on. It just kind of seems like not a whole lot needed here, and also has a plant and some posters in the background. And then Julian, he's got like nothing going on. He's got 2 statues, and then it's like 3 blank posters. I'm not sure if that was a mistake by not filling that in with anything, or what's going on there. That's very unclear. The point is, I don't think that these desks really serve a good purpose. We have a large facility, what I would presume to be a very large facility, especially with such like high ceilings and stuff like that. I can't imagine that this is something that is just real rinky-dink kind of thing. I expect that this is a larger, more grand thing. So I feel like the desks are unnecessary when it comes to doing what they could better utilize it for. And again, it's not a huge deal. It was something I was kind of hyper focused on for a while reading this. I'm like, it just doesn't seem like the best use of their time. So I maybe would have had this laid out a little bit different. Like, we could still utilize this room. Just take the desks out. They're useless. And then I have no idea what's going on with Julian's background here. So, all right, moving on. So, and again, yeah, she gets introduced to Lucas, Julian, more formally with these two. We meet Daniel. Daniel works with magic. He prefers, a technomancer. And he also creates like magical objects and things like that they can use in the field. So he's very useful. And then finally we meet Chandra. And we don't get a whole lot of information on her right this second. We'll find out more about her later. But what we do know from here is that she is thousands of years old. And despite being thousands of years old, she basically acts like a high school girl. Very giddy, very bubbly. She's just so excited that Nancy's part of the team because she's like, it's been kind of a boys' club. It's nice to have another girl. And all of that gets cut short when Adam shows up here, and he wants to kind of run over what happened last night. Just kind of go through and kind of debrief everyone. And so we then cut over to the demon bishop guy who was hunting down this priest. And he is, he's the bishop, the demon bishop is torturing the priest and just trying to get some information on a blade. He wants to know where that's at. The priest is not willing to give up this information. He's like, I got God on my side. There's, you got nothing. So the old demon busts out this box, and some like floopy juice comes out and just starts attacking the priest, and it's like just hurting him real bad. It says something about like, he's going to feel in like all of his nerve endings. It's going to be lots of pain. And so the location gets revealed, and now I got a lot of problems with this. Now, presumably, this grandfather clock has been here the whole time. I'm not given any indication that it's like just kind of appeared. So presumably it's been here the whole time. Now, they're in an abandoned barn. A grandfather clock really kind of sticks out. I just think that we should have changed the setting on this one a bit, because a grandfather clock in the middle of a barn, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you be checking that right off the bat? Not to mention, it is directly next to them. I mean, it's just out in the open. That's why I had to look and see if there was any kind of way that it was like summoned or something like that, but I'm not seeing anything. And perhaps that is what happened, because it's so out of place, and why the demon needed to like torture this out of him is beyond me. Because yeah, they hear clank in there, and he's like, "Oh, well, that's where it's at," and smashes it and goes about his way. Also, touching back into this, the demon was out hunting down the priest, so they went to this abandoned building because the demon priest, or the demon like bishop guy, wanted to go there. Like, he's the one that brought them there. So it's just, there's a whole lot about this one that doesn't make sense. I think that this is a genuine flaw because this is something that is helping drive the story forward. I don't feel that this is necessarily a nitpick. So yeah, we have the grandfather clock. It gets smashed, and he gets the blade out of it, and you know he's feeling himself right now. He's like, yes, I got all this power, all this evil wickedness, and the priest is, you know, he's asking for release. You know, he is he says, I submit to your glory, sire. Please release me. And it does seem like he is. It feels like he's kind of having a moment of weakness here, right? Well, the bishop goes ahead and stabs him, and the priest is just like, I shall walk with my Lord, and he, you know, he's dying, and says, Lord, please forgive me, and it does appear that God is responding back and says, you know, you have not failed me. You are welcome to walk in paradise with me. So at least there's that much for the priest. What appears to be him going up to paradise, at least. So at least somewhat of a happy ending for our priest friend there. We come back to level M, and they are talking about several piercings going on. And we're not certain as to what a piercing is yet. We are going to get that explanation later on. But you can get it from the context. Like, there's a lot of shit going down, and they gotta pay some attention to it. And Lucas is saying, okay, is that why we got Sabrina over here, who doesn't have a clue about anything? And Nancy's like, hey, look, you don't have to treat me like I'm a child. But also, what's a piercing? And Luke's like, see, she doesn't know shit. And Adam's like, okay, Samuel, what's going on? Why does she not have any information? Samuel's like, I literally just got Nancy introduced to the rest of the team when you showed up, sir. So he's like, okay, why don't you take Nancy, get her all up to speed as far as what's going on with with what we do here. Get her up by the end of the day. The rest of you, here's some files. We need some people back. Got to pull them out of retirement. So that's where Lucas is now going to be focused on. And so Nancy goes off with Samuel, and they go to the library. Now Nancy gets a message. It says, do not trust them, Nancy. I'll be in touch when it is safe. Tell no one. And when Samuel asks what that's all about, she's like, oh, it's just a friend wishing me well on my first day. So she's at least entertaining whatever this message is saying. And it makes me go, what the hell is that all about? These guys seem to be on the up and up, but might be some shady dealings later. And so Samuel then starts basically the orientation process for level M. We then cut over to Rob. That's his human name. He is the guy that attacked Nancy and her friend and killed Nancy's friend, Caitlin. I think it's Catherine. Anywho, not important at this moment. We have Daniel over here with Julian on the other side of the glass here, interviewing, just trying to get some information out of him. He's not cooperating, and what he does kind of spouts off is just rhymes and stuff like that about pieces of eight and things like that. And he also says that he is Jack the Ripper, possessing Rob here, and he works for the prince of the underworld, the devil, Satan, Lucifer. And so Daniel mocks him and is like, "Yeah, you hear that, Julian? We got us a celebrity." And he says he knows the big guy himself. Julian's less than impressed. He's like, "Yes, all these underlings claim to know the devil. Proceed. Just move on." And they start to do their electric interrogation, and they want to know what the pieces of eight are. And he says, "You'll know when it's time for you to know." Basically, my boss is, they've already got a significant piece, and basically you're all doomed, kind of bullshit. Julian's heard enough. He's like, "All right, this is all we're gonna get out of him. Time to extract the demon out of him." And so Daniel goes ahead and proceeds with that. Hits him in the head, and demon extracto complete. So we do see that it is somebody who looks like what we expect Jack the Ripper to look like. And so seeing this, after we send him back to another dimension here, Daniel's like, "Do you believe any of what he's saying?" And Julian says, "Since when do demons tell the truth?" And basically, like, yeah, none of this sounds good, but we'll see what happens, kind of deal. And so we come back over to Nancy and Samuel, and there's a whole lot of dialogue going here, so I'm going to do the best I can to sum it all up for us. And basically, what we're learning is there's a thing called the Veil. It's a protective magical force over the world, and piercings are holes within that veil where evil forces are coming through. It is level M's duty to kind of keep the peace in those areas, to go out, throw forces out there, and take care of it. And I guess there was a major piercing that happened about a year ago, and since then, there's been an increase in frequency in which these piercings have been happening, and so they have now needed to recruit others, and that brings us over to Lucas and Chandra. They are going after one of these retirees. His name is Carl. Now, Carl was kind of the muscle that they always used, and basically he got burned out. He was just tired of fighting all the time, and he decided he was going to retire and go out and be peaceful on his own. He was just tired of being somebody's pawn in a war. And so Chandra starts out first, and Carl is well aware that she is there. He's got some heightened smell, so he knew that she was there, and also knows that Lucas is right around the corner. He's like, "You can tell your human friend to pop on out." So then Lucas is. They're trying to get him to come back. He wants nothing to do with it. He's like, "Yes, there's always a war that needs to be stopped, but when does it end?" kind of deal. And he's like, "That's your guys' problem. Leave me out of it. I don't want anything to do with this." And to help get his message across, he goes ahead and he's starting to transform here and throws a big old log at him. They miss. We do see he's transformed, but Chandra is also transforming, and we see she's like a winged demon chick. And so the two start having a big old fight, and Lucas is like, "What the fuck am I gonna do here?" We come back over to Nancy and Samuel, and now Nancy starts getting a little impatient. She's feeling like she's getting the runaround from Samuel, not giving her the answers she's really looking for. Loses her temper a little bit and kind of throws him up into the air. She chills the fuck out and is like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." Samuel's like, "Yep, I've had worse, no big deal. But yeah, you're a natural witch," meaning like you're working with the elements within Earth, so like fire, We see her working with like plants and stuff like that too, so she can kind of bend all of these to her will once she learns to control her powers. They start to talk about all the books that she'll need to kind of brush up on, and also we learn that Samuel was a familiar, somebody who was like working with witches and stuff like that. And there's a joke about him being a black cat, you know, the stereotypical. And he's like, "Come on, man, really? No, you know, trying to like, just because I work with witches and warlocks doesn't mean I need to be a black cat. I can be a familiar and do all that still, without being so stereotypical." So we cut back over to Lucas and Chandra trying to negotiate with Carl. Carl's still not having it. Lucas is in the background. He's getting a trank ready and gets him. So Carl takes a little nap, and they both agree that when he gets up, he is going to be super pissed. And yeah, I mean, he's putting up this big of a fight. How much more pissed off do you think he's going to be when they throw his ass in the truck and drive him all the way back to where he didn't want to go in the first place? Not the smartest move on my part, and hopefully they just put his ass in a cage. But again, at that point, you're just kidnapping. Like, he really does not want to be a part of that. So you're just kind of, this is where you kind of see some, maybe there's some shady dealings going on with Level M there, right? They're willing just to kidnap people and make them fight for them. Doesn't seem so wholesome there. So going back to the familiar talk between Nancy and Samuel, she wanted to know if if Samuel's Daniel's familiar, and he's like, no. I have not had a host in quite some time. And he's just been kind of doing his own thing. So then Samuel starts to lighten up the tone as they're moving on. And it's like, "Oh, you ready for your broomstick lessons?" And she's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you." I enjoy a lot of Samuel's dialogue here. I really enjoy him quite a bit. And he's like, I have my moments of humor, but I apologize for being so cynical. I work in the government, and perhaps for too long. And again, another thing I really enjoy about his dialogue is, his just kind of throwing out some one-liners every now and again. But yeah, they seem to be hitting it off just fine. And I got good feelings when it comes to Samuel. I think he's on the up and up. Perhaps Adam's not, along with his big bodyguard guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He doesn't have a whole lot going on, so he kind of escapes my notice. We come back over to Rob. Rob's been set loose after they tried to interrogate him after removing the Jack the Ripper demon. He seemed to have no knowledge of what happened, and so they set him loose. And so he's out just taking out the trash when a demon force approaches him, and what do you know? Old Jack's back and repossesses him again. We see somebody calling out to Rob here, and it appears to be like his wife or his girlfriend or whomever. I didn't see any rings on fingers, so I'm just going to assume girlfriend. And, old Rob's looking pretty psychotic, and he's talking about how he's got to go play with his new friends. But before that, he needs to have a little dessert, and, well, he murders this poor girl, and he says he's got to go see a guy about a thing. So that is where this story ends. Just a little bit of nice artwork here. But yeah, so I'd still say that this is a good, solid 7 out of 10 series. We got some tismy things, nitpicks, and I do feel like the grandfather clock is a real issue. We probably should have just set that up in like a house where a grandfather clock would have been more appropriate. But again, for it to not be checked at all, before torture. I don't know. Maybe it's just because he's a big evilman and doesn't really want to waste the energy and gets more fun out of that. I can buy that. My biggest issue is just a barn with the grandfather clock. That's very bizarre to me. And it just, you're trying to keep it hidden, so why would you put it in the middle of a barn? That just does not add up at all. And again, that's my biggest flaw there. Um, there was like one spelling error I saw, and it was just a space not being in there, not a big deal. Um, I can't even remember which page that was on. I just recall seeing it, and I just moved on with my way. So still very solid. I'm really starting to get into these characters. This one is a little dialogue heavy, but I mean, hey, look, we got to kind of know what's going on in the world, so I'm a-okay with that. We had plenty of action to kind of help balance things out, so you're not feeling like you're getting dragged down too much by the dialogue itself. So, like I said, it's a pretty solid series, and like I said, so far, I believe issue 1 and now issue 2 are both 7 out of 10. So, on the better part of things, despite some issues. So, I would certainly recommend this series overall. And if this does sound like something you want to check out, be sure to look at the link in the description and see where you might get a copy for yourself, or at least who to follow should a second chance campaign arise. But that is all I have for today, guys. So until next time, take care and God bless.